So today is the third day of the GAN workshop. Once again, I will welcome Dr. Vijay Khubshid for the fifth lecture. Okay, thank you. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? You guys had a good night's sleep? Well, so today is the fifth lecture, which is heavy metals in wastewater. We had a lot of discussion about heavy metals in the wastewater. I had a discussion with many of them, so people who have worked in coal industry, metal industry. You know, that's one of the major concern. It will cause severe impact on the water quality and the environment, right? We have seen several examples of that. But I will go step back and just summarize what we did. You might have seen in the lecture 1, 2, I was focusing more on how this pre-treatment program is applied all over the US, right? We saw how the 3 layers of administration, like federal, state, and local. And as we go down, first, second, third layer, you can have a more stringent limitations. They may be technical based, they may be case by case study, how that has to be implemented, right? It depends upon various reasons. You have seen the probable reasons why the local limits are to be more strong. That's one. Number two is when you design any wastewater treatment plant, it depends upon the type of industry existing in that area. We also saw there are two scenarios city can do, whether it is delegated or directly managed by the administration. In one scenario, we say the domestic wastewater from the residents is treated and discharged depending upon the location where they want to discharge, right? Another scenario, you have a lot of industry, it is just not possible to accommodate with a municipal sewage treatment plant. So that is why we construct different specifically for to treat industrial wastewater. We have also seen how the scenario is here. You might have seen this is a common effluent treatment plant where all the industries are located. They collect the wastewater, then they send it to common effluent treatment. But we also saw what are the issues with the small and medium industries. They cannot afford to have a big treatment plant. There are many issues. That is why when you make regulations, when you make a planning, you should also understand on other side, right? They have, if they are not connected to the sewer system, if the sewer system is not capable of that, if the sewer system doesn't exist where they can discharge, if their discharge is not continuous, if their discharge is intermittent, if their discharge is seasonal, like you will have to be taken all these factors to be into consideration then you design. That's why each city town design of treatment plant is different. I said the limits are developed in the local limit. How they are developed, it not only depends on the standards of the state. That's why we give a little leeway for the city's town based on the existing industries, the scenario they can decide. And local limits are developed accordingly. How they are developed, it is not reference to the city, even though we say city is local limit. But these limits are developed based on the treatment plant capability, correct? That is, but we say that these are the set limit. That is just a kind of understanding. Then we also saw the what are the scenario. We have to treat the wastewater coming from the industries. That is there. In addition to that, it also developed the sludge. We talked much about how to dispose of the sludge, what are the issues with sludge, what are the contaminants in the sludge, how the sludge can be converted into manure, how in what circumstances that cannot be used as a manure, and how you will remove thickener and other various components. We saw that. So that was all. But today we will see it is the importance of taking care of the wastewater when there is a presence of metal. Right? Then we will go for biological treatments. So here if you see the national pre-treatment program or any program, pre-treatment program which is applied to any location or statewide or the national pre-treatment program, a component of the NPDES permit is regulatory program established under the Clean Water Act. So it started with the Clean Water Act. This is the model which they developed for the nation. Then it is applied to different states, different cities, town accordingly. So that is the treatment work which is owned by state, municipality, or includes the devices system used in the storage, treatment, recycling, reclamation of either sewage or industrial wastewater. Liquid in nature. There may be domestic wastewater, it may be non-domestic. That's why we call to make it more precise as a non-domestic, right? So any non-domestic will go. Sometimes they say we produce the wastewater similar to the domestic wastewater. So that's why we make domestic wastewater which is coming from the residents. Then rest is non-domestic and the industrial. Right? What is the difference between the domestic and the industrial wastewater? It has high BOD, it may have high suspended solids, it may have other pollutants of concern also. You have seen various scenarios. We also saw two case studies yesterday. Why I gave those two case studies? You also seen a couple of videos where I work very closely with them. So in that case studies, we wanted to make it more clear what we do, what the planning is done for the national level to the local level, how it is implemented. So that is why you do a survey what kind of industries are there and you scan thoroughly how the each industry is analyzed and then discharged so that it cannot have an interference with the receiving treatment plant and also cause pass-through. So that is the very intent. So if you say the treatment plant in the sense, it is not only the treatment plant, it is the treatment plant, sewer system, manholes, pumping station. There are various components that you know. It all works as a one, not independently. They are all connected. Are designed primarily, that is the wastewater treatment plants in the city is primarily designed for domestic wastewater, not to treat toxic, non-conventional pollutant that present in the industrial wastewater. So you can understand when a domestic wastewater treatment plant is there, that is called sewage treatment plant, we have little provision. That is why the pre-treat, right? Industry pre-treat, some of the pollutants are removed. that is their responsibility, then they should make it acceptable to the receiving community, right? Then oversee designed to treat primarily domestic wastewater, not toxic and non-conventional pollutants. That we have to always keep in mind. Your first job as an administrator, tomorrow you will become a plant manager or a city authority. Your first job is to protect. That is why I always emphasize you have to do your job correctly. Otherwise, it will cause severe issues everywhere, right? Toxic pollutants can affect the efficiency of microbial process at POTW, reducing the treatment capability. Right? Gases and vapors from the volatile organic can accumulate in the head space of the sewers. That you have seen the example. If they are just discharging like that, if they are discharging the oil and gas, so there will be always vapors depending upon type of pollutants, gases. It may just cause an explosion in the sewer line, right? So that is why you have to make sure that the receiving all the industries which discharge wastewater to the city, they have taken sufficient care. That is why you give authorization. That is the privilege. You will say you will accept the wastewater, but under following conditions. So that is how you do that, how you confirm. You do a sampling, you do analysis, you find out the data. Is it? Based on that, you will do an agreement. This is what we can do for it, right? Then we have some emphasis on the clean water when it has come up into regulation and what it consists of. Primary federal law and regulates the water pollution, restoring and maintaining the quality of the national water bodies, preventing, reducing, eliminating water pollution, establishing condition discharge pollutant into waters, developing toxic pollutant list, and contains 65 entries deemed to be toxic, and we also developed a derivatives list form titled priority pollutant. I spoke a little bit about priority pollutant also yesterday, right? Then published analytical testing methods to them to be used by manufacturers in determining the presence of chemical and their toxicity. What it does, if we have a law, then only you can apply, then only you can prevent the discharges, right? You can find the importance. So if you want to take any action, you need a clause under what circumstances you can take an action on the violations. You just cannot decide on your own. So that is why this Clean Water Act plays a very important role in not only in the US, it is in the whole world. Many countries started following, understand, but somebody should step forward. So they spent a lot of resources and developed a system. So that is what you are trying to understand how it, and they are already modified. There are regulations and rules here. Pollution boards are established. We have a municipal rules. Only that has to be applied precisely. So then regulations about that gives list of toxic. If I say toxic pollutants, there should be some list, right? You need some guidelines, need a manual, is it? And what are the rules, where it can be applied, how it can be implemented, all that has been put into that, is it? So definitions, interference, pass through, and what are the other pollutants? There are three major categories: metals, pesticides, volatile and non-volatile organics, right? What are the common toxic metals which can cause detrimental and harmful effect both to environment and human health. Right? We talked about some of the contaminants, metals. Yeah, one of your colleague was talking about chromium. Couple people are working on the chromium. See, if that is present in the wastewater, if it is not taken care of that, what will happen? It will start destroying the whole system, what has been built. That is why it is very important. So, I want to go a little step back. Earlier, what used to happen is, you might have people give an example. We used to drink river water. So you might have also heard about the stream purification. It has what treatment you are doing here, it is all existing in the nature. We have sedimentation tank there, we have aeration. When the depth decreases, it becomes an aeration there. When there is a big deep pond like terrain, it acts as a settling tank. Everything is there. Is it? That is how it used to happen. Even little contaminant was there that time. There were not treatment plant. There was a domestic wastewater only. They used to treat itself, right? BOD, aeration. Then in the morning sun, then ultraviolet. It's kind of a disinfection. That is why there was not much contaminants. But it has a capacity. If you are discharging about 100. I used to teach environmental for many years. But so the self-purification of stream, all of you may be knowing, many are in teaching in that. So it has a limit. If the BOD is 100, it can take care. If it is 1000, if it is 5000, 2000 industrial waste, you might have seen. I think people who have worked in the coal mine and leather industry, you know what is the quantum of BOD, right? How you will analyze that BOD first. You do a BOD analysis, you do COD analysis. First, you want to find out in the industry whether it is biodegradable or not. If it is not a biodegradable, if you are discharging, what will happen? It will not biodegrade. Is it? And many of the pollutants are man-made pollutants. Earlier, these things were not there. That's why these contaminants were not there. Today, we have everything, right? Fiber, plastic, everything, many things. So there are man-made pollutants, right? So that is why these we made them, and then we should also take care of that, right? So that is why these are the different contaminants today emerge in the current situation. Arsenic, beryllium, cadmium, chromium, copper. They depends upon the type of industry. Accordingly, they will be entering the wastewater stream. Detection using atomic absorption spectroscopy. Yeah, we have given a little bit about how these metals are analyzed. How what are the equipments used in the system? Gas chromatography. I have used this gas chromatography for many years. If the concentration is small, most of them are doing PhD, masters, right? You might have used this kind of an equipment. So these are the equipments which are widely used in the analysis. And also you have a guidance document which is developed uh, standard methods, okay? Standard methods. And now there are pollutants we do not know how to analyze them. Those are not there in the standard methods. Still, we are trying to find out which must be the appropriate method to analyze. Hazardous level, toxicity of the metal, and their effect on human environment. So I have told you, I have one slide where you can see what is the effect, what happens, right? So you can see the effect of these metals if they are entering into the environment, if we are entering into our ecosystem. What are the side effects here? Right? So you know about arsenic. Somebody was talking about the arsenic also. Right? Arsenic hazardous level, antimony hazardous level is given. Health effects, you can see. We're all inviting these kind of health effects. So unless you fix it, how much medical infrastructure you want to develop, keeping these things, right? That is why the role of people who are involved in the environmental field has a lot of responsibility. People are getting attention, more attention. That is why wherever you have opportunity, you should be able to speak, make the people aware, implement the regulations, educate the people, understand the latest technologies which are existing or developing so that you can implement. See, yesterday we were talking about a case study. There was an industry which was using a old method. That's it. Was able to identify what's wrong. But they were doing the things for many, many years. You can observe that. So I found that this is not wrong. This is not the way it has to be done. It has to be done differently. If you take a step forward, then only you can do that. Otherwise, that will just go like that. See, reducing from 600 milligram per liter to 500, you can see big achievement. If you don't take action, if you don't involve and try to find solutions, then things will just go like that. That's why, however, we have the capability, your contribution and creation is very important. I have had a conversation with many people. They are so much interested in the subject, so that is very important. You should have a passion to do something. So that is how I was specifically giving those examples. If you step forward, you can fix the things. There may be failures, there may be some issues, it may delay, there may be consequences, but ultimate result is important, right? Somebody has to do step forward. So that is why they removed the old system. They put the advanced system, right? If you know the system well, then people can work out of it. That's why you should always keep updating yourself. I'm very happy that a lot of people are participating in this such conferences, so that you will be exposed to new technologies. You will also know how the things are done differently. If you do not know, otherwise you will always thinking it has to be done this way. If you do not know, it is already there. That is why people who are doing a PhD, they may be knowing. You spend a lot of time in the beginning to understand where is the gap, where you want to do. If people who have already done, that's why you go back 20 years, 25 years and see what is being done. What is your first job? To find out where the gap is, right? Where the things are required. See, if you are doing the things which are already existing, spending a lot of time, what happens? That's why when you are preparing the scope of anything, don't be in a hurry. See, your 3, 4 months, 5 months delay doesn't make much difference because you are doing it once in a life. So that's why make a thorough understanding where it should be useful. Then you will feel proud after a few years when you go back. See, I could have done this way. That should not be there. Delaying, maybe we may be having a lot of issues. But at that time we have to be patient. That's why I don't tell for people who have done PhD you should have a patience. They already have. But you know, it is true for other things also. We have to spend our time understanding, learning. So all if you implement, you can change the things. I will give a few more examples. This is I have a couple more case studies. What is the main purpose of those case studies? I want to show you how the system is built and how it is implemented in the field. That is important. If it just remains in the regulation or in the books, it's of no use. It should come on the field. Then you will see the effects, right? So you can see, let's go back again, see hazardous levels. You can see how much must be the concentrations and effects. I want you to read and see what are the effects. I have given the health effects, and you also know where the sources are. Arsenic is also a big problem in major areas. Earlier, I think before DDT and all, people were using arsenic as one of the as a disinfectant or like that in the farming, right? And you know the health effects. How you want to let these things flow, even though you know. If you don't fix them properly at the various at the basic level, if you are building the big infrastructures or a health infrastructure, how you are going to fulfill? That means you are knowingly you are doing the things, right? Prevention is always, more important than repair. So cadmium, chromium, and copper. Copper in small quantities it is okay, but there is a limitation. We drink water in the copper parts, but to certain level, right? The hazardous levels you see, health effects you see, how difficult it is. You guys are in the field, you understand what are these contaminants. But many other educated people also you can ask, they won't have an idea, right? So that is why it is important to understand where we are at. See, like I had an incident where city wants to liberalize lead limits, but I prevented that. See, that is what he will have to do. Because what happens, industries always want to plead. Because as the concentration of removal increases, the cost of treatment goes up, right? If you want to even see the turbidity, if it is reduced from 50 to 20 is easy. 20 to 10 is little different. 20, 10 to 5 is still different. If you want to make it almost 1 or 2, 0, it is still difficult. That is why it is important, whether it is a drinking water or where you are doing application, you are doing a recharge groundwater, and if you are discharging it to the river, if you are discharging it to the canals, if you are discharging it to applying it to the crops. So that is why the perfect analysis is required. Planning is very important. You take little more time in the planning, and once you decide everything ready, then you go fast. So that is why it is important to understand the various component, various stakeholders involved in that system, right? Mercury, that is why you will have to find out the pollutant of concern. When we do inspections, we do audits, uh, then what is your main concern? Focus, pollutant of concern. You see whether this has been taken care of, right? you can analyze. When you do just inspection, we don't see just the outer look and the office, sitting in the office, and do the proper analysis, take the sampling. They will be doing, but still there is an why you as a regulator or an authority, you want to do a sampling on yourself. You want to make sure, right? It is not necessary that they may not be knowing. Whether they are doing it knowingly or unknowingly is another aspect. So that is of your concern. If unknowingly, if it is happening, right, then you can see sit together. It is not something like that, two different bodies, always you do enforcement, they do some. It is not like that. Some things they may not be knowing. But there also people change. There also people change. And you require all the stakeholders to be together to make it successful. And you need industry also to grow the economy. At the same time, your responsibility is to make sure that you have achieved the water quality standards and your environment is sustainable and safe. That is your responsibility. Everybody has to do individually their job properly. That is what the very intent of I have given this slide specifically to understand, right? How important your numbers analysis. Suddenly, it should not be a sudden thing. The environment doesn't happen suddenly. It has a lot of capacity, decades together. Nobody notices. Yesterday, I was very happy. People were talking, and one of our professor was talking about the burning issues in the river here. And we were talking that doesn't happen all of a sudden, right? That time nobody noticed, and today suddenly everybody is talking about why it so. Is it? I also heard there are number of treatment plants, and only 10% of the treatment plant were working and rest were not working. Then who is responsible? The things which are built specifically, how you will justify this? Tomorrow you will be leading one of the unit like that. If it is not working, how that is possible? Wastewater is produced 24 hours, 365 days. If you don't take care of that, what will happen? Whom you will blame, right? So those things are important. So that is why you should always look at the pollutant of concern in addition to just BOD and COD. Other people talk, but you are a core environmental people who are much aware about the water quality analysis data. Your lookout should be something different. You look in a different perspective. It is not that just you are ready, your aim is not to just spend more time on the very generic pollutants, right? But you should also see the priority pollutants. Can you have the sources to find out how it is? So that's why you have to learn this analysis. That's why accredited lab means what? It has a certification. It has all the capability. Trained people are analyzing, and they have a modern equipment, accurate equipment. When you ask about the data, always see whether when that equipment is calibrated or not. Just don't take the data. And if one of your assistant, tomorrow a group of people will be working, always have a double check. When you are making a major decision, you have to make sure your data are right? Whether it is done properly. Otherwise, what happens? The whole things will. If the doctor diagnoses wrongly, what happens? The disease which has to be treated, that will remain, and it will cause another disease. Similarly, like that. That is why you should understand the data thoroughly. Just don't design even the models just for 1 or 2 data, few months data. Make sure those data are very important. That is the language of the wastewater, how it is performing, what it consists of. Then you make a decision. Okay? And this I have seen how, I will not spend more time on that. Whole the industry discharge, receiving wastewater treatment plant, the component of solids generated and then disposed of, and also the interference in the treatment. This we have seen. Specific discharge prohibitions applicable to non-domestic users. What are the consequences? Pollutant which create a fire or explosion. Flash point should be less than 60. Should also aware of the regulations. It is not necessary to keep in your memory all the time. That's why we say operation and maintenance manuals, and different manuals was involved in developing many manuals. So those are important. You can read through, you can compare, you can see how the things are there, whether is there any requirement to change the design in the beginning. That is all can be done, right? Then solids, pollutants which will cause obstruction flow, that is we have seen, which will cause the obstruction of flows. Oil and grease in the system, it will cause a problem in the sewer system, it will cause a problem in the treatment. So that is why heat amounts will be inhibited in the biological activities. That is very important. If you allow any industry or any discharge which has high temperature, the biological activity will be spoiled. They are sensitive to temperature, right? How people are sensitive, they are also sensitive. So that is why you see, because the biological process, once it is disturbed, it will take a lot of time to come back. It is not just in a day it happens. So that is why it is important to make sure. How we will make sure? You will always keep analyzing the receiving end, the wastewater entering into the treatment plant. At every stage you will observe, you will take up samples, and you will say that the pollutants which are entering, they are within the limits or not. That is your responsibility. Make sure that sampling is done accurately at limited time. And how you will make a decision as a plant manager or plant staff, you should make sure, oh, we are not able to find out this is accurate, so increase the sampling frequency until you should have everything in plan, how that is, what is coming in and what is going out. That is done through sampling analysis. You should have a good quality of data. You see where you are doing the analysis, whether they are done correct. They are trained people. Training is a lack of thing here. People say that I did so many years back, but you should always keep updating yourself. That will help a lot to learn and implement in your system, in your field where you are there, right? Then oil and grease, so we have talked about that, and any truck, all pollutants except at the discharge point. This is also an important thing. What happens? Many industries, they don't have a lot of wastewater produced. If they may be producing maybe 1,000 gallons or 5,000 gallons, 10,000 gallons in a month or so, if it is highly concentrated, what they will do? They will they will have to do off-site, send it to off-site treatment. There are many companies which they do this job. They collect from different places, and what they will do? They will take it to the treatment plant and discharge through the trucks at the headworks. Then that plant people, what they will do? They will analyze that whether it is acceptable or not. It is not like that they have brought in a one truck and just put in the headworks. That is also possible. You have in a system where the wastewater flows into the wastewater treatment plant through this sewer system. But you also have Many industries, they want to just collect in a tank and send it. Small industry, you can't expect that they should do a treatment plant. So that is why you have seen the different scenarios. So you should have from, I mean, from what is the source of the wastewater coming from, right? So the consequences you have already seen. What are the consequences if you don't analyze the wastewater entering into the system, right? The pH is also there. It should be within this to have a good biological system, right? And a non-contact cooling water in significant volume. Non-contact cooling towers, you have a big cooling towers. Everybody wants air condition. You need an air condition in the company to maintain certain products, certain raw materials, central AC. That's why they contribute. They are considered as an um, cooling water, non-contact cooling water. What is the main contaminant in the cooling water? TDS, total dissolved solids, is the contaminant. So you cannot just put the enormous quantity of TDS in the wastewater treatment plant. VOD is what? It is a biochemical demand, oxygen demand that you can treat, or bacteria are well trained. But if TDS, they may spoil the entire game there. So that is why you have to make sure that the TDS is in line. If you just discharge, just throw it outside, what happens? That will enter the groundwater, right? So that is one of the things you should have, the understanding what kind of pollutant, what is the source, what is the volume, what is the quality entering into the system. Is it? Wastewater significantly affecting the system, hydraulic loading, which do not require treatment, right? If the hydraulic loading is there, if it is coming capable, suppose you designed a treatment plant of 5 MLD, and if it is working at 2, if it is hydraulic loading is high, it can accommodate. But if it is organic loading, you have to see to what extent. That is why we do a shock loading study, how much it can take, right? You should have the understanding about that. Then regarding the industrial discharges, may be direct or indirect in discharges in the system. Significant industrial users, I said, who discharge average more than 25,000 gallons per day, means it is about 4 times 100,000 liter per day, right? If that big volume is coming, you have to be careful. They should have, this may cause a slug loading. Sudden big volume of wastewater is entering, your bacteria's biological treatment just collapse. So those things are important for the industries to look at. Its hydraulic loading, organic loading, pollutant of concern. Right? Categorical industry, we talked a bit about the categorical industry like metal industry, metal finishers, the contaminants which are difficult to remove in our system. Right? So there are, what they will have to do, there is a system they define what are the industry produce these kind of metals, these kind of a pollutant of concern, categorical industry. So there is a guidelines on that. You should have that guidelines. So then it is easy to understand from the source of uh, the contaminant. Oh, see, I want to give a little quick flash on what are the industry coming and under this. You can see we were talking about aluminum forming, asbestos manufacturing, battery manufacturing, carbon black manufacturing, copper, coil, you can see all industry come under categorical industry. So what is the difference between the significant industrial users and the categorical industrial users? Categorical, it may be volume may be small, but more contaminant. So that is why. These are the industry you come across. Many of you have worked in this kind of industry. Then you should understand the gravity of the issue. And petroleum refinery industry, right? Today we are more concerned about the fuel. We need a fuel for our cars, and you should also understand how this, what it contributes, right? It is you should, it is not the industry if they are not taking care what they are producing. That is the issue. Then there are three layers. We talked about that: the federal requirements, state requirements, commercial, industrial, residential, and different source from where the wastewater enters the treatment plant, right? What are the requirements to apply the pre-treatment program? Then you should see the location of the industries and what is the capability of the treatment plants and what is your local limits, how much it is able to treat, what are the pollutant of concern in order to maintain that, whether you have that resources, analysis to maintain the public infrastructure. If the wastewater treatment plant is there, if it is not working, means what? How it is built. It is built by people, money only. All the people existing in that place or everywhere, they are the stakeholders, right? You have invested there and it is not working. How that is fair? And provided written technical evaluation of the need, revise the limits, right? Technically, you will have to evaluate. You see, we'll next in the next lecture we'll study about the biological treatment. You have in a different units, right? We'll study in detail. You have a grit chamber, you have in a primary, secondary, oil grease trap review, secondary disinfection, and then discharge. You should make sure that each unit is working properly. It is not the influent effluent. If just the water is passing without any remote, that you have to make sure that each unit is efficient or not. That's the big responsibility. I have seen people just sitting in the one place, not looking at anything, whether it is doing it properly or what a big waste. Waste on several end. You are not analyzing each unit how it is doing. You spend so much money and it is not working. One or other reason. There may be several reasons. But if you have spent so much of crores of rupees, if it is not working, is it okay? It's not okay, right? So that, see how much big responsibility is there. Unless you create an awareness, understand, when you brought attention, then people start thinking why it should be like that. So those things are important. So that is why the technical evaluation is important. The purpose, what it is built, whether it is doing or not, right? And the sludge produced, where it is disposed of, how it is disposed of. All those things contain components of the wastewater products have to be analyzed properly. What are the rules? How it is established? Industrial user, we have a different users and the control program and what are the various components, interceptor, silver control, mercury control, all has to be there. When you do a survey, you should understand what it is producing, right? What you do, how you will understand that. If suppose a small unit came into your town, if you are officer, what you will do? You will investigate and find out What are the products? What are the raw materials used? How many people work? How much water is used? How much water is produced? Where they are disposing it? How they are disposing it? All has to be analyzed. Then you can make a decision. If he is just starting something and discharging, who will do that job? What is the job of that unit which is built for? Then you will say, okay, if you don't want to build a treatment plant, it is fine. You collect everything what you produce and take it to other place. I have a several example like that. I have done. No, can't do. You until you do your treatment plant, you keep discharge. But they listen. Otherwise, they will have to pay a lot of heavy fines on. But you have to do that. Otherwise, I have just started. I will see. No. First, see that. Go into the detail, and then you do. That's why in the beginning there is a system. You say how the people have developed. People who have developed. People like you and me and other people who are in the field. They have developed. They have seen several things and incorporated. Right. That is why when a new unit come into the town, they say do the engineering evaluation of what you do, what you produce. Then you will analyze. Then you start. You are hurry in starting the thing, not doing what is required. Inside everything is air conditioned. When the wastewater comes out, it is just left outside. Everything inside is good. Who will take the outside one? So that is why those are the things which have to be dealt basic. General prohibition, specific prohibition, categorical standard, local limits, best management practice. There is a small in it. You should, at the same time, it is required, but it should be, your aim is not to stop, but your aim is to, they should take care of the stuff what they produce, right? That is why best management practice. If a small unit is there, I gave you an example. If there is a car wash small unit, you give them a best practice. You make these things, then you start doing it. You should know where it is going, how much they are producing, what they are doing. That is what you have to observe and take action. So you have several tools how it has to be done. That is why it is built so thoroughly so that there is no chance like that. You will also, if you do anything, you will go on improving. How you will do, when you make a document, you will read 10 times, you will do 15 times, 20 times, make it more consolidated, compact, well referenced document. You prepare or not, you will not prepare one at one strike. That is how these things are built. But you have, somebody has to take a step forward to implement it. For example, ability to locate loading, TSS and flow, ability to set specific local limits. That is what we talk more about, the local limits involvement in taking care of the uh, water quality, right? Control mechanisms. There are control mechanisms in place where you will have to make sure that things are done properly. Then right to entry, this is another thing. So here, any official also, they cannot just go and enter in anybody's premise and start doing the things. That is the right of entry. That is why when you come in there, you will have to take a permission. There is a process how that goes. That is why you give an authorization. When you give authorization, there you will make it clear that the controlling authority, administration, has authority to enter your premise and do the inspection. That is required. If there is nothing, no documentation, suddenly you cannot go there, right? That is why those are the things to be considered from your side of point also and their side also, right? Right of entry, surveillance, monitoring, in line with the right entry requirement, provide information requiring industrial user to respond to the survey on wastewater generation characterization will assist the treatment plant completing a robust industrial survey. That is why you have to do the survey, you have to start from there, right? Then the remedies, civil penalties, that is the next step, right? If you are doing your job correctly, if that is very important, if you are doing job correctly, everything you did, if doesn't happen anything on their side, that is for that you need a law. I did all this, but this is happening, so this is the way path we will go, right? Then it is the civil penalty, criminal penalty, and then court and all this come into the picture. Then you will have to justify. That's why your documentation and data analysis is very important. When it goes to the court, if you don't have, in defense to plead anything, what you are doing is right, you just go away for a minute. So that is why what you do, what you analyze, what you report, that you know how the legal system works. Those things are important. That is why what you do is also important, how you document, how you analyze. That's why you make sure that data which are generated. Why data is important in this system? Because you can make a determination. You cannot say just good, bad, better, they are not doing work. What it means? There is no basis for that, right? It is a relative. Wrong and right is relative. He will say, I am doing right. He will say, you are doing right. It's a relative. It may be doing right, it may be a wrong for you. But he may be doing it unknowingly or knowingly. There is no rule at all. Or there is no analysis. So that is why this data should be representative. We always say the data generated is representative. Then health and welfare, remedies of non-compliance, environmental interference with the treatment plant, authorities, procedure, how to prevent discharge, they are always there. So if you are in a system, if they are not doing the things properly which is required as per the regulations, laws, you can stop, right? You can stop, you have the right. We will not accept the wastewater. But that system should be in the place. You have the right. People who are receiving the treatment side, these wastewater treatment plants, they have the right. So they can say we will not accept it. So then they will understand. So you need a law for that. I will give a little understanding about the emerging pollutants. So we are not yet there. We are on the way to have a big concern on this. People who are already maybe knowing the consequences about that, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that also. Still, it is in the very initial stage. Identify the industries which contribute to PFAS, right? First, you will have to know the source. Then you can find out from where it is coming. We will also come across what are these effects. People who have worked in the organic compounds, you know the consequences, right? Organic compounds like benzene, toluene, xylene, you have regulations for BTEX, right? Many things, if you do not know how you will make a law, right? Who will make? Yourself. If you are if you ask anyone, what are the pollutant of concern, you should have a complete idea, right? Then you can make. In the beginning, it may not be correct, but you will slowly you will improve. You will collect the data and make it. We'll talk a little bit about that. Any questions on this? So, to summarize what you study in this metals, what are the different type of metals existing in the wastewater, and what are the health effects, right? What are the health effects of these metals? I allowed you to read it for a while. You can understand, no need to explain much about it. Already people are suffering on this. If they are not taken care of, they will start entering the water quality, water bearing um, ponds. It will enter underground reservoirs. It will enter streams, rivers, everywhere. If it is in the sludge, you cannot do anything. You don't have other way to dispose it off the site in the landfill. How much you will keep disposing of in the landfill? You can also make it productive, but you build the treatment plant with an intent to create a manure out of the sludge generated, because you are treating a domestic wastewater, right? But if the metal is in the sludge, the very purpose of your plan is spoiled. What happens? You spend a lot of money to make that system to work. Because of these contaminants, they cannot be used for that purpose. Then in addition to that, you are taking a space in the landfill. You see the management, how much loss it is. You are not creating a loss at one place, in multi places, and you are creating a problem. So that is why these things are very important in the treatment system. You cannot just think in one direction. You should think in all the direction. To think in all of the direction, you should understand what are the various components related to the treatment plant, right from source of production to treatment technologies, efficiency of the treatment system, what is built, how it is managed, how the data analysis is done, right? Whether you are able to recoup the cost, where you are disposing, whether it is fulfilling the purpose what for it is built, right? Then whether you can make a productive substance out of this waste, right? Yesterday somebody was asking about reuse of the water, right? But if we have these contaminants pass through, what happens? You build a plant with a intent to reuse the water, so that is very much spoiled. One way it is not doing the purpose what for it is. If you are applying that to, you are also creating another problem for the soil people and the water body. So it is not solving the purpose. You are creating additional issues. If they are just discharged outside, you are systematically bringing them here, not doing the things and creating a number of problems. That is why the purpose what for it is built is important. Your role is very important in that. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, if you are related to any wastewater treatment plants, or you may be on an industry side, is it? And or you may be on the regulation side. Maybe those things are very important. They should do in a collaboratively do the job correctly. That's simple, right? That's why we have a lot of NGOs, and it is a responsibility of the people also. They should aware what is going on. We do public notice whenever new industry comes. That is the rule here also, everywhere. But what happens? It will just remain in the newspaper. Nobody will see. Is it the professor? Is it the example? Anybody has done a public comments what this industry is here, what they are doing? Are they aware? Anyone has done? Some people. Ah, I agree. See, that is important. I appreciate those heroes who does that job. Is it? That is why I want you to be like that. Wherever you are there, after learning so much, if anything is happening, if you are not having a concern, just a people who knows the things don't do, and who don't know, both are same, right? So that is why wherever you are there, you should ask question, you should find out, you should say something. Is it? I want to give you an example. I was reading somewhere in one of the intern was doing some project on the lakes. I think that girl was going from different areas, finding out how many lakes. Today we have lost more than 50% of the lake. That's why to you seen there was a lake here when we are small. You stories you hear, but that is true, right? So the girl started finding out what are the lakes, what is the area. You will see area if you check the area of the lake is different there in the system and existing is nothing. So all the entire area is filled with houses around. There we are smart in doing that, so, right? So started finding out like some people, you said I appreciate some people like her went to the press, went to the regulations, went to meet, collected a lot of people, did the protest. Then people were aware. Then they were able to remove the structures which are built there, and some NGOs came up, started working on those lakes, and today you find a beautiful place. See, just a small trigger. There was, I heard, there was a threat for that girl also. Lot of people who were there already acquired. They were, uh, you know, taking a threatening not to do this. Many press reports. But some people come forward. See, very nice. Saved the lake. What is the result? Just one spark, one trigger saved the lake. So this is how there are many examples. It is not like that nothing is happening, but slow rate. But as people grow, people people understand their right, people know the consequences, problems, issues. If anything is happening, they should be bold enough to make statements. People, at least they should aware what is happening. Then there will be some people who can come forward, take next step. So that is what I would like to say. When you go with something, you'll study a lot of things in the classrooms, and you will also teach. Whenever such problems comes up, you will have to move forward. There should be something, what you are doing you should do right. So if you don't take action, if it is say okay, then the whole thing will suffer. Even in advanced countries these things happen. If you don't, you can do just a job, or you can step forward and make it right. That's why you should have a passion to do them. You should have an understanding, should have a perfect documentation that is required. You should able to create awareness. Public participation is very important uh, in this system. So that is why you should be able to speak. When you speak, I'm happy. That's why I tell you to ask questions, see these are the issues. I talk to some people, they are so active, and see they are understanding the problem, they are discussing. So that is how it spread. Tomorrow you will be here and you will be talking to them. So make sure that things are spread, people are aware what is happening, and you should also aware. Just do the thing. And whatever good work you do, you document and make it available for the people. That is what I have learned. Whatever I do, I've done all this one page report so anybody can follow. That is why you do publish your papers so that other people can read, understand, and start doing the work. Right? That is all. It may not be only the papers. Any document, any work you do, make it sure that is available, documentation, record. That is important. You will also feel proud. Sometimes I used to write a lot of articles. I've written many chapters, of course, journal papers, conference papers, and some articles. See, if you look back, you see at that time, see, you feel proud. You have done something and document. That is why it is important what you do, right? Make it aware. How much is impact, that is different. Whether it results or doesn't results, that is not your job. Yeah. It is, don't be on the negative side, nothing will happen. It is in the environment, it is not like that. It takes time. How it takes time to get pollute completely. See, today people are talking about the river after how many years? It took many, many decades, the spoiling. Today you are talking, right? And now all of a sudden everybody is active. They show plastic and make a picture and give advertisement. I think 5 minutes break. If you don't have question, if you have question, I will wait for 5 minutes. Right?
If any of the candidate